Welcome to Codex History of Video Games. My name's Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta. You just started voguing.
This week we're doing the history of the Vogue. If you're not watching on YouTube, you didn't see me doing Vogue as my dance.
Mm-hmm. That was really good too. Mostly because it came out of nowhere.
We talk about classic games. We talk about classic songs.
Mm-hmm. This is just a video game / Madonna podcast. That's all this is now.
Yeah, we really found our niche here with the video games and Madonna.
We really did. We really did. I'm excited for today. It's Kirby Part 3. Who knows how many parts we're going to do for Kirby, but we got to give a shout out, okay, before we start, because friend of the podcast, Aiden, is the one who requested this. It's us to do Kirby, and this is going to be a long series. So
there's a lot of Kirby games, more than I thought.
There's way more than I thought, and we're kind of jumping around a little bit today, but we're going to do 2 games specifically. We're going to do Kirby's Dream Course, Kirby's Dream Land 3. Both of them are for Super Nintendo, so I do feel like they're connected in that way, but they're kind of years apart, and there's some other stuff in between that we might go back to next episode. These are the ones we wanted to do, so we're just doing it. I think
we should go back to do Superstars, because that is a pretty highly regarded Kirby game. Even though it feels like it's like just sort of like the Super Mario All-Stars of Kirby, there's much more to it than that, I think.
Then let's do that. Let's do Superstars next time, but not next time. Next time. This is our 300th episode, so we're gonna have to take a little break for 300, do something else. I don't know what we're gonna do yet, but. So let's just get into Kirby's Dream Course first. This was developed by HAL Laboratory. We know them. We love them. Released in Japan on September 21st, 1994. That's the first time it was released. And then February 1st, 1995 and August 24th, 1995 for the North American audience and the EU audience, respectively. It's been re-released on a lot of stuff like Wii Virtual Console, Wii U Virtual Console. But I think you could play it best now. It's on the Nintendo Switch Online SNES catalog. That's probably the best way to play it, I would say. The systems that you play it on are originally on Super Nintendo, but again, I think the best way to play it for sure is to just do the Switch emulator. That's the easiest way. But the numbers of copies sold, so this was like estimated around 200,000 units worldwide. Again, it's kind of a very ballpark number. With these sales data for this old games like this, we really don't know. VG charts didn't even have anything. I found that number somewhere else, so we're kind of like, I don't know, maybe. The genre or gameplay style, I'm gonna say it's a mini golf, but it's also puzzle a little bit because there's some strategy to how you play mini golf. The average time to complete is around 5 to 7 hours, but it will probably take you longer because the game is hard and it takes some learning there.
You got to be good. The 5 to 7 hours is if you're good.
Exactly. I think you got to get good. The game rankings has it at 77%. Again, this is before the time of Metacritic, so we're going to go off of game rankings for this one today. So let's look at the gameplay first. Remember when I got in trouble for saying that Kirby's Pinball Land was just another pinball game, Tyler?
Yeah, I got you in trouble for that.
You got me in trouble, with the law. Yeah. I remember I ran from the law for a while.
I called the cops on you.
You swatted me. It was really messed up. So I'm glad I didn't do that with Kirby's Dream Course, because this was recommended to us by Matt in Japan, if you all recall, on Discord. He recommended it to us. And this is not just a mini golf game. There's a little bit more going on to it and how it doesn't do mini golf in the conventional way that I think you and I know. So first, it's important to note that the game itself is 2D because it is on Super Nintendo, but it has like a faux 3D effect for it, which is pretty cool. And I think they pull it off really well. It looks good. You can hit the ball. In this case, the ball is Kirby, much like Kirby's Pinball Land. Kirby is also the golf ball in this case. But you can either putt or chip, so you can kind of hit it up in the air. You can just hit it straight forward, and that adds more strategy to the game. You can also hold B and apply spin to the ball as well if you want to. So you can do like top spin or back spin or make it curve. You can shoot. If you shoot the ball, to shoot the ball, you just press the A button, a meter fills up, and you press A again. And it's very basic golf game stuff, right? We're all pretty familiar with that. A max power shot will pretty much follow the shot preview marker to almost 100% accurately, I would say, depending on if you're in like water or something, but it pretty much follows that. As far as how the game works, though, and how it's different from mini golf, is you start shooting on a hole with 4 Maxim tomatoes, okay? Every time you take a shot, you lose a tomato. There are targets on the course, and you have to hit a certain number of those targets. And then when there's the last target left, it turns into a hole that you can like end the course on. right?
Oh,
So
okay.
there's actually like multiple targets you hit. Every time you hit one of those targets, you gain a tomato. Anytime you put the ball in the hole, you gain a tomato. If you hit an obstacle that like hurts you, like an enemy that's not like a target, you lose a tomato. So if you lose all the tomatoes, you lose a life. That's the pretty much the basics of the game, right? So it's not entirely like a standard mini golf game. It's not like you're trying to just get to the hole. It's you have to hit these targets to reveal the hole, and the hole could move because if you miss a target and skip it, you might have to backtrack to get to that one and get back there. And sometimes it's way harder to backtrack. Like you want to hit the shot right the first time,
Mm.
otherwise it'll punish you. So now that sounds like a mini golf game, but then on top of that, there's more because much like Kirby games, there's power ups. So if you hit a certain
Copy
type of,
abilities?
yep, you copy the ability of the target. So the target, the ones I experienced the most, there was like an umbrella power up that when you hit the umbrella, he'd come to a stop suddenly, so you can like stop yourself from rolling off a ledge. Very handy. There's also a shock attack that can get rid of these unkillable obstacle enemies that usually you just have to either like avoid, or if you hit them, you lose like a life, like a maximum tomato, right? There are also other hazards such as water that slow your ball down. There's bunkers, there's turntables that can spin the ball off course, and then there's these like spike pit traps in the game as well. There are also places on the course that help you though, like good obstacles, like warp zones and arrows that automatically change the direction of your ball. I actually have a visual aid here to kind of help us with that. So let me go ahead and get that all set up. A professional podcaster would have done this earlier, but I'm going to do it right now because
I believe in
that's how I
us.
roll.
This
That's
is
how I
why you
roll.
gotta be watching the YouTube version
This is why you
of
gotta watch the
these,
YouTube version.
or the
Okay,
video
so
version.
this is an example of what it looks like. So do you see how you got Kirby here? He's the ball. That little dots there, the orange dots, those are your aiming reticle. You can move that from side to side. That arrow on the ground, if you hit that arrow, it'll immediately change the direction of your ball to face that. So in this early on
Gotcha.
level, you want to hit the arrow so it hits the target, which is the little face guy, and then that gives you your tomato back. So it makes it so your shot essentially doesn't cost you anything, right? So that's like the basics of the game. But the arrow is a good example of one of those power ups that actually helps you. So I'll just leave that up there. You know, people can peruse it at their leisure. All right. So there are also, like, I never really got this far because I'm gonna be honest with you, I played the first course in the game and I tried the second course multiple times, and it's really hard, and I'm bad at video games, so I ran out of time. But it
A
was
Kirby
fun,
game being hard, that is actually kinda weird.
dude. I'm trying to decide like on the level of like Kirby's Pinball where this stands. I think this is easier than Kirby's Pinball because there isn't that luck aspect to it of like falling down the drain, but it's still in a hard game to master. I'd say you have to play it a lot, but each course has a different par total, like the number of strokes you can take before like getting a bronze, silver, or gold medal. And you actually want to get these medals because you unlock certain things in the game. Like if you get enough medals, you can unlock like a map select menu or like a sound room, or you can watch all of Kirby's dance animations. Also there's extra variants of each course for 1-player and 2-player modes as well. And I think you unlock those with the medals as well. So definitely worth trying to get like the best score you can. In total, there are 12 courses. Each one of those courses has 8 holes. So there's actually a lot of levels in the game. I think it's pretty cool. There 8 of those courses are single player. 4 of them are exclusive to the 2-player mode, which we'll kind of get to in a moment. And there's of course one course that has like no holes, and that's actually like the final boss. And I have a little picture of that I was going to share with the
So
team
there's like
here. So
100 levels in this game.
yeah, there's a ton of levels, but here's a picture of the final boss because it's like it's Robo DDD is what it is. It's Robot King DDD. Look at him. He looks kind of very Sonic in this photo, actually. In this
Yeah,
screenshot I
yeah.
found.
How do you fight a boss in a mini golf game?
I am
Like, what
not
is the
entirely
combat here?
sure. I mean, my guess is you just got to hit him in certain times or certain places. That's
Or
my guess
maybe he's
with it.
got weak points?
Maybe, yeah. I honestly never got this far, Tyler, because I'm bad at video games. So I have no idea what
I
happened here.
I
But
would assume it wants to test you on all of the skills you've gained over 100 levels of. Kirby mini golf.
I would hope so. In my mind, it's like the raid of Kirby's Dream Course.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
exactly like that. So yeah, but that's kind of the all the levels in the game. But let's get into that 2-player mode, because the 2-player mode has a surprising amount of depth to it. First, player 1, you are the famous, well-known pink Kirby, right? That we all know and love. But the second player plays the yellow Kirby, which is known as Kirby. And this is the first time that Kirby was in a Kirby video game, was for Dream Course, because you can pick the yellow Kirby in like Super Smash Brothers, for example. That's technically a different Kirby named Kirby. I did not know that.
Oh,
So this is the
oh, the
first
yellow one,
time
like
they're
like when
revealed.
you change the color in Smash Bros.
This is the first big reveal of Kirby instead of Kirby. So the 2-player game mode, though, has 4 courses, and each course actually has a variation you can unlock. So really, there's like 8 courses, kind of. And instead of health, you have energy. And when that energy goes to 0, like when you're like what would be your maximum tomatoes go to 0, instead of losing a life, your Kirby sleeps and skips their turn to get their energy back, which is kind of adorable, if you ask me. It's a very cute way to do it. So you
You
can
gotta take a
cause,
rest. Sometimes you just gotta take a little nap.
yeah, sometimes Kirby gets eepy. He's got to go to bed, and that's fine. So you can actually cause other players to lose energy if you hit them with your Kirby ball. So it's kind of like a strategy part of it too, to like hit the enemy player to make it so they can't take a turn, which is kind of messed up. But if you want to get ruthless with Kirby's Dream Course multiplayer, have at it. So
I mean, mini golf, technically, that's a strategy in
it
regular mini
is,
golf too.
because you can hit their ball, right? In regular mini golf, that's like what you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do. And it's
Yep.
messed up. I never played that way as a kid because
Yep.
I have a soft ego and it would upset me. So the goal of the game is to collect the most stars by hitting enemies or going through the final hole to finish a level. That gives you a star. Now, here's the kicker, though. Not only do you players lose energy when they get hit, you also steal stars from them when they get hit. So it's like full on
Hmm.
battle golf, kind of, in a way. Another
I
interesting
love the
touch,
term battle golf.
battle golf. That sounds kind of fun, right? We could do battle golf. That'd be a fun
Yeah.
thing to do.
Yeah.
Another interesting touch is there's actually a special power up on one of the levels called a day and night switch. And the switch can be hit 3 times a hole. And when the hit for the first time, this character called Mr. Shine will appear on screen and then make the background nighttime. And when that happens, the player's stars are reversed. So you swap stars with a person. So you actually
Oh, this
swap
is some like
score.
Mario Party level
It is.
shenanigans.
Exactly. And you can actually hit it again to swap again. So you can actually swap back and forth twice. And then if you swap it a third time, the switch goes gray and you can't hit anything. And that's it. So yeah, it's so you can only do it a maximum of 3 times, but it's kind of adds even more variation to the
Mm-hmm.
2-player mode. Really though, I was just blown away at like how much strategy there is to this. Like Kirby's Dream Course, surprising multiplayer depth to it. Mario Party mechanics, battling,
Next big esport.
maybe. Also, getting your friends really upset at you. I think that's how it works for sure.
I think that's an important part of multiplayer gaming, especially on the Super Nintendo.
Is to make your friends mad at you.
Yeah.
Definitely agree. Hardcore agree. All right, let's get into the plot, because believe it or not, there is a plot to this game according to the instruction booklet. It explains that King DDD took all the stars in the sky so no one can dream. Oh no.
Rude.
Now, there is no justification as to why mini golf is the answer to fix this, which I don't think it's needed. I think it's just how he does it. It's just how the world works in this game. I think because Kirby lives in a dream, it kind of justifies all of the weird shenanigans that we're going to get with all these different kinds of Kirby
Oh
games.
yeah. Yeah,
Like,
definitely. You
it's
just like this could have been a dream where it's just like, yeah, I had this weird dream where like somebody took all the stars and then we had to play mini golf to win. It made sense in the dream, but I know it doesn't make sense now.
yeah, in the same way that Shigeru Miyamoto says that Mario is like a play with actors, and that's what justifies them all playing like golf and tennis and Mario Kart together. Kirby's Dreamland is a dream, so they can do whatever they want. And that's how they do it. That's how they justify it. So that's the plot, though. Very basic, very, very Kirby plot, right? King DDD steals something. Now we got to get it back. Development wise, I actually did find something extremely interesting about this game. And I'm really glad we came back to cover it, because Kirby's Dream Course was built on the engine of another shelved HAL Laboratory SNES golf game called Super Tee Shot. Yeah. So I'm going to kind of break it down, but the game was shelved in favor of adding Kirby. And like Kirby's Pinball Land, they just wanted to make that sweet Kirby money. So they took an existing golf game, put Kirby all over it, added Kirby music, and then sold it that way. And that's what Kirby's Dream Course was. Now, Super Tee Shot did eventually come out, but it released through a very specific system peripheral that I have never heard of. So maybe you've heard of this, Tyler. Have you ever heard of the Satellaview modem peripheral for the Super Famicom?
Yes, I
You have?
have. It's yeah, it connected up to satellites. It was in Japan only. It connected up to satellites, and there would be like specific times of the day where like games would be broadcast. They famously remade the original Legend of Zelda game in like Super Nintendo graphics, but it was only on that, which I think relatively recently, like a sort of hacked together ROM became available on the internet of that. Um, but yeah, there were a few games that were broadcast on it. They did cool stuff, like they would have like actual voices broadcast through it, because you couldn't fit the voices on the cartridge, but they could come through live on the satellite. So if you were playing at the right time, you would get the voices, I guess. So I don't know. It's a very interesting peripheral that would be fun to try to cover sometime.
Yeah, we should definitely do an episode on it. It's pretty crazy to me that it came out. So yeah, that came out in 1996, I believe, is when the Satellaview version of Super Tee Shot came out. So the quick version is they took Super Tee Shot, took out all the original characters they made for this game, took out all the music, added a Kirby theme, and then all they had to do was to add the Kirby power-up system that we know and love. And that's kind of how they developed Kirby's Dream Course. Another cool note on Kirby's history here and Kirby's Dream Course is that Kirby's Dream Course was the first Kirby game to feature an actual anti-piracy measure. So the way it would work is if the game detected an unusual amount of SRAM, then like say what is expected for a Nintendo cartridge that's manufactured by Nintendo, because a lot of the copied cartridges, like, or the cartridge copiers, would make changes and they wouldn't match what Nintendo did. The game would do a couple different things. First, it would get stuck on a warning screen. And I actually have a picture of this warning screen and what it looks like here. So let me see if I can pull that up for you. Let me go here. So yeah, this is what the warning screen looks like. If you plug in a pirated copy of Kirby, this shows up on here. There's actually
It
a
says,
YouTube video that breaks this whole thing down, and the guy goes through each thing and shows you what it does. So if you want to watch that, I highly recommend it. I remember to link to the Discord. I'll try to do that. But
yeah, it's a really scary message. That it is a serious crime to copy video games. Please refer to your Nintendo game instruction booklet for further information. And then it lists what I assume is maybe a law, the U.S. law that says it is a serious crime to copy video games. 18 USC 2319. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, very serious. And then another warning screen will pop up too. It says this game pack is not designed for your Super Famicom or Super NES. That warning pops up if you try to plug in the wrong region code. So it had this on it
They've
as well.
spelled game pack wrong.
They did spell game
there's
pack
no
wrong.
C
There's
in
no
game
C.
pack.
That's right. Yeah, there's no C. So I thought that was kind of cool because it's the first time with anti-piracy.
Dang, Nintendo.
But that's only the tip of the iceberg, because if you get past those anti-piracy messages, things start happening in the actual game. All right. So first of all, in single player mode, Kirby cannot recover health from
These are
defeating
my
enemies
favorite anti-piracy measures.
and does not earn one Maxim tomato from getting a hole in one. So you can't gain health back. If Kirby manages to complete the course, the game crashes and deletes all save data. If Kirby runs out of lives, the continue option is barred, and selecting the game end option deletes all saved data. In two-player mode, recovering from sleep causes Kirby or Kibi to regain only 1 point of health rather than 4. So now
Dang.
you may think that makes the game feel kind of unplayable, which is exactly the point. So that's what they were going for. Essentially, they were making it so that pirates thought, oh, hey, I cracked this Kirby game. Look how cool this is that I have this Kirby crack that you can use for this game. But people get the cracked version of it, try to play it, it's unplayable, and then the pirates look like idiots, essentially, is what they're going for. Because
I think this is actually bad for Nintendo to do this. I love this stuff because I think it's funny and hilarious, but it's it would seemed to me that it's hard to tell this from the actual game. If you played a pirated copy of this game and just had these problems where you couldn't recover health and you didn't know that you were supposed to be able to recover health, or deleting all your save data or something, you might just think this game is no fun. You would just play the
Yeah.
pirated version. You go, this game is no fun. I would not buy an actual copy of this game. It's not good.
Yeah, that's true. People probably didn't realize that it was like a pirated thing and not the fact that it was like, this is just Nintendo games. They're not fun at all. This is not cool. They
Yeah.
probably thought it would feel like an arcade game at home because you can't win. Like, it's super hard.
Yeah, maybe. Or they're just like, I don't know, it was weird. I died and I couldn't, because like they may not have known that they got a pirated copy of the game too,
Yeah. But I think it's kind of cool because it just ruins everyone's fun when they're doing it.
It is funny.
And I think that's funny. It's very funny. Yeah.
I like that. Like there's ones like Game Dev Tycoon. If you pirate that game, like you can make it pretty far into the game, but then towards the end, your game starts losing money because there's just this uncontrollable piracy problem for your game at the end. That you just, and they're just like, and there's people like posting on the message boards like, my game is just like, I can't win. It's just piracy. And like the devs are like, yeah, well, sucks, doesn't it?
It's not good, isn't it? It's not fun. All right, so let's talk about the legacy of this game real quick. It's important to note that, I'm glad. Thank you, Matt in Japan, for telling us to cover this, so we didn't miss it. I appreciate that. But also, it's a fun game. Like, I had a good time playing this game, and I would play it again. I didn't get very far in it because I ran out of time and I had to get the episode together. But I will play this game again. Like, if I'm on a flight or something, it's a great for that kind of casual nature. Especially, I think it fits really well with the Nintendo Switch because of like the pick up and play way of doing it. It's a turn-based game kind of in that sense. So the game is hard, but I don't think it's as challenging as Kirby's Pinball Land because it doesn't have that randomness there. But there is an important thing about the legacy of Kirby's Dream Course, and that is that there was going to be a sequel that was in development for the Nintendo 64. It had two different names. It went by either Kirby Ball 64 or Kirby Bowl 64, and that's bowl like bowling. There are even promos that were released for this game, but it never released on N64. Parts of the game do, however, appear in the GameCube game Kirby's Air Ride. So it seems like they shelved the game on the 64 and then recycled some of the concepts for it for Air Ride. So it didn't go totally to waste, but we didn't get the 64 game that we all thought we were going to get. But all in all, I want this to come back. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like they could do a modern version of this game and it would be really fun. I think it would be kind of a fun little puzzle game or something like that to come out. Even if it was just like a Switch game, that came out for like $10 or something. I think that'd be really neat if they redid it. But it's Nintendo, so it would come out for 60. So anyway, it's not really golf. So I don't think it's fair to say this is like a mini golf game. If you're a golf fan, it's more like a golf / bowling / puzzle with how they did it. But I think it's really unique and interesting. And again, another example, like the pinball game, of how they took a concept that everyone knows and kind of did their own thing, and it worked. So that's Kirby's Dream Course. Everyone, try it out.
Nice.
So
excited
for the next thing.
Yeah. So the next game that we want to talk about is Kirby's Dream Land 3. And so this is a game that came out on the Super Nintendo, despite the first two Kirby's Dream Land games being Game Boy games. So we get the rare sequel hardware upgrade from handheld to console. We've seen some games do the reverse. I can't think of any other games off the top of my head where the first title or first couple titles were on handheld and then later titles were like mainline on consoles. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm sure this isn't the only one, but I just...
Well, no, Metroid was NES first. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it got a sequel on the handheld, and then Metroid 3, Super Metroid, was Super Nintendo game. So that one kind of bounced back and forth. And then Metroid Fusion, which is Metroid 4, was on Game Boy. So they just kind of bounced back and forth with the Metroid games.
Yeah.
And then is Metroid Dread Metroid 5? Do they call it Metroid 5?
I don't know. I thought it's kind of its own thing. I thought it was no, it is a continuation of the Fusion storyline, though. Still haven't played it, by the way. I need to get that game. I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, it's worthwhile. I had my gripes with it. Yeah, I did.
You did beat it. That's why you're a legendary gamer, because you're like, I have my gripes, but I'm going to beat it because I'm a champion.
But I did finish it. Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't. There was just some things that were not super fun about it. But this is not the Metroid podcast. episode. This is the Kirby. Although we will talk about Metroid a little bit in Kirby's Dream Land 3, and I think some of my Kirby's Dream Land aficionados will know exactly what I'm talking about here.
This is cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, Grime Facts for Kirby's Dream Land 3 was developed by HAL Laboratory. It was released on November 27th, 1997 in North America. So that is over a year after the Nintendo 64 came out.
Wow.
This thing is not just like we couldn't finish the game in time to get it out before the Nintendo 64. So it's a Super Nintendo game that came out, after the Nintendo 64. This is like it was meant to be a Super Nintendo game for a long time. It did not get a release in Europe until it came out on the Wii Virtual Console in 2009. It just straight up didn't come out in Europe. And it was also the last first-party Nintendo game for the Super Nintendo in North America, at least. So it has that kind of distinction as being. I don't know if it's technically the last game that ever came out on Super Nintendo, but it's the last Nintendo game that ever came out on Super Nintendo.
I can look that up while you keep going.
Sure. The best way to play this game is. So I'm gonna go against the grain here on this because the Switch Online version is probably fine. That's a good way to play it if you don't have any other way to play it. However, the best way to play it is on original Super Nintendo hardware with a CRT TV, because of the way the art style is. It's done in this like crayon kind of style, which we'll talk about more in a bit. That really, really, really benefits from kind of the imperfections of a CRT. Like it kind of relies on sort of how things kind of blend together a little bit on a CRT to like add detail that isn't actually there in the pixels. I don't know if it's like brains filling it in or something. Normally when people are like, oh yeah, you got to play old games on a CRT because that's what they were designed for, blah, blah, blah. I generally I agree with that, but I don't always see it. In this game, I see it. Like I saw a video of this being played on a CRT, and you could kind of tell how it was being blended together. And I was like, oh, the art style actually works a lot better when it's not on a perfectly represented like LCD display. I played it on. Yeah. I played it on an OLED screen on my handheld when I put a couple hours into it. And it looks great, but I think it really benefits from being played on a CRT. So if you're asking for the best way to play this game to really appreciate the art, it's just play it on OG hardware, like period correct hardware, because it was really made with all of that stuff in mind. The imperfections of the CRT really help it here, which is kind of interesting. Maybe you could recreate that with filters or something on a PC if you're playing on an emulator. There are probably some really good CRT filters that maybe do that. But I didn't get a chance to play around with that stuff. So sold about 500,000 copies worldwide. But,
I was going to say, are you ready to know the game that came out, the last game to come out on the Super Nintendo? I actually found an article here from thegamer.com. So it's legit because it's about gamers. Of the last game to come out on every Nintendo system. 1998 was the year. And the last game was Frogger.
Oh, that sounds familiar to me because I do remember when I started getting Nintendo Power issues. I started getting them in 1998. So it was well after the Super Nintendo's time. But I do remember in the reviews section one time a Super Nintendo game being covered. And I was like, dang, that's weird. They're still putting out Super Nintendo games. And I think it was Frogger. Must have been Frogger.
Well, here's the crazy part about that version of Frogger. No music. That's what was known for it. It's not remembered well because it did not have music. Like it was just absent in the game. The port just didn't have music, which is crazy. That's
a game that just makes you ask why. Like, why make a game 2 years late to a console? Like 2 years after nobody cares about this console anymore. And it's like it's not even a good game. It's like the music's bad. It's just Frogger. What are we like? What was the point of that?
I'm gonna stop you there though, because I kind of like Frogger.
There's nothing wrong with Frogger, but it's like, but why?
Yeah, I mean that's true. I think the big blunder here is why did they just release it that late? Unless they're just trying to get Frogger like 64. Everyone loves Frogger. Did they make a Frogger 64? Oh, I hope so.
I don't think they did. But
okay, I'm gonna look that up.
But it's like who is this game for? It's like diehard Frogger fans that have not moved on to the Nintendo 64.
Well, you don't realize I have a Frogger tattoo across my chest. It's actually the screenshot of Frogger just across my chest.
And you also have a picture of like the Nintendo 64 logo with Calvin peeing on it, right? Because
yeah. Because like, no, I only like.
So you only want to play Frogger on the Super Nintendo.
Just ignore all these games behind me. You can't see them.
Your nearly complete collection of Nintendo 64 games.
Dude, I'm still a ways away to go. I am so far away still. I think I'm at a sixth of the Nintendo 64 games though. So that's pretty
There
good.
aren't very many Nintendo 64 games, but that's a
300.
good chunk though.
So I have over 60 of them. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a good
Okay,
spot. But
that's good.
sorry to interrupt there. But yeah, Frogger, if you guessed that when we were talking about it and you knew that, you can send us an email and we'll tell you, hey, this person got it right. So just let us know.
Yeah, virtual fist bumps.
Honor system only. Okay.
So the average time to complete for Kirby's Dream Land 3, according to howlongtobeat.com, is about 3.5 hours for the main story. You can get a couple more hours out of it if you want to spend some time in each level, like really memorizing them and finding the heart stars, which we'll talk about soon. There are a bunch of levels in this game, so there's a lot of replayability, lots of different paths to take within the levels and stuff like that. So there's some replayability here if you're looking for it. And then the Metacritic score, it doesn't really have a Metacritic score. It's kind of all over the place. Some of the people talking about whether or not they remember, like how well they remember this game, are kind of just like, it came out too little, too late for the Super Nintendo. It wasn't as good as Kirby Superstars. And I had already moved on to the Nintendo 64. Dreamland 3 doesn't really do anything for me. It's kind of like some of the consensus I saw online. It's not the best of the Dreamland games, according to Kirby fandom, like just general consensus. I'm sure there are people out there who are like, Dreamland 3 is my favorite ever, and that's fine. You are allowed to have that opinion, but I don't think it matches up with like what like the majority folks think. So kind of just too little, too late. Why not just put something out on the Nintendo 64, which they would get to, but it would take a few more years before anything Kirby came out on the Nintendo 64. Or anything mainline Kirby, I should say, because I guess Smash Bros. It's not a Kirby game, but it does have a lot of Kirby influence. So yeah, Kirby's Dream Land 3 is kind of the rare example of a portable series getting like a real mainline game on a home console. Most of the Kirby games up to this point had been on Game Boy, except for Kirby's Adventure, which was an NES game. Kirby Superstar is like this kind of Super Mario All-Stars sort of thing where they kind of do some abridged versions of other Kirby's Dream Land games with some mini games and some other story stuff around there. People generally really love Superstar, which is also why I think Dreamland 3 fell a little flat, because it just didn't hold up to Superstar. And so people were like, I've moved on to the Nintendo 64. I'm not going to play this game that is not that great and is not even as good as the Kirby game that I actually do have for my Super Nintendo. So I'll just go back and play Superstar if I want to play Kirby game. So, sorry, Dreamland 3 fanboys, I guess. This one wasn't super great. And it came out very, very late, a year after the Nintendo 64 had already hit the scene. So it's kind of just like a forgotten Kirby game. That doesn't mean it was a bad game, though. So I'll go into the gameplay here. It wasn't bad. It just was maybe
late.
not worthy of Dreamland 3. Yeah, it was just late, and it was just kind of mediocre, or kind of more of the same. It plays out like other Kirby games. There are some new copy abilities here. There are a few new animal friends. So we get our original 3 animal friends, Kind,
Rick's
Pooh, and
back.
Rick's back.
You know I'm a Rick fan.
I know. And Rick, I don't know if there's a character later on in the game that you help out called Pick, who is also like a hamster. I don't know if they're related to Rick or not. You may want to Google
I would think
that.
so. I would think they're kid. It's their kid. I can Google it for you. The family tree of Rick the hamster. I'll do that for you.
Yeah, and they probably all rhyme with Rick. But you also got Choo Choo the octopus, Pitch the bird, and Nago the cat. So you got a few more animal companions here. They all have their own special abilities. They all interact with the copy abilities in different ways. So you get a lot of mileage out of there are like 8 copy abilities in this game. Well, 9 technically. One of them you don't really get till the end. And all of the animals sort of interact with each copy ability differently. So you end up with like a lot of different variations, even if there's like 3 different kinds of fireballs.
Whoa. Pick is Rick's girlfriend.
Oh, well, there you go.
I mean, this is according to the Kirby wiki, so it has to be correct.
It can't,
right?
Yeah, it has to be.
They wouldn't just lie about that. No one lies on the internet. No one.
You think somebody would just go on the internet and tell lies?
They can't. Okay. Also,
No,
Pick
it's
appears
illegal.
in Kirby's Dream Land 3, and then their last appearance was in 2023's Kirby's Return to Dreamland. So if you want the Rick and Pick storyline, play both those games.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to drop that truth bomb on everyone real quick about Pick the hamster.
Thank you. The levels for Dreamland 3 are are broken up a lot like the levels in Dreamland 2. There isn't like a hub world thing like the like Kirby's Adventure and Dreamland 2 had, where there was kind of like you could sort of walk between the levels. There isn't really any of that. It's just kind of a linear. There are 6 different worlds, each with like I want to say about 8 levels in each. And each level has like a special thing that you need to do to get the Heart Star, which is sort of like the Rainbow Sword shards that you could get in Dreamland 2. You need to get all of the Heart Stars to get the true ending, to like fight the final boss. And every single level has one of these, and they sort of follow a pattern of what you need to do. Some of them you have to like talk to someone to complete a task. Sometimes you need a specific animal friend to do a specific thing. Sometimes you need to solve a puzzle. But each world, like it's I think 6 or 8 levels. Each, like the second level is always the same kind of thing. The third level is always the same kind of task. So you sort of know what you need to do in each level. But it does take a lot of time. If you're figuring it out for yourself, you're going to spend a lot of hours in this game. If you're just looking it up online, you could do it pretty quickly, I think.
I
But I think the
wonder if
biggest
they thought that would be like an actual replacement for the fact that Kirby's Dream Land 2 had so many different level things. If they're like, instead of doing that, we're going to do this Heart Star thing instead. So it's like going to take up, they're going to have to solve this mystery instead of finding all the hidden paths and special areas of Dreamland 2.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think every level in Dreamland 2 had like a Rainbow Sword piece. I think it was just there was like one in every world. So yeah, I guess maybe you're right. Then if they're just like, take out the hub worlds and give every level a secret thing.
Yeah, because Dreamland 2, you said that had more like secrets a la Super Mario World, right? So that was more like you could do that. That, and I think with platforming games, that's what people mostly love. Maybe that's why they didn't like Dreamland 3 as much. Maybe it was missing it. I don't know.
There's
I'm
still a lot of that. I
speculating,
mean,
but
there's a lot of different paths within the levels. Still a lot of secrets to find. So that stuff's all still there. But the biggest change, I think, in the gameplay here is you get a character called Gooey. And Gooey is from Dreamland 2, where if you in Dreamland 2, if you are already on an animal companion and you found like that companion again, you would get this character called Gooey, who just like refilled your health points because you already had the animal that they were going to give you. And that's the only time we see Gooey in Dreamland 2. But in Dreamland 3, he's a huge part of this game. And he's made from the same material as the bad guy from Dreamland 2, who's also a bad guy in Dreamland 3, Dark Matter, which we'll get into the plot soon. But Gooey has some gameplay changes. So you can bring out Gooey, and it costs you 2 health points to do so. He has his own little health bar too. But the second player can play as Gooey. So Gooey can also lick things up, get some copy abilities, not all of them. Generally is like a kind of they're a little different from Kirby's copy abilities. He's kind of a fun little addition, kind of makes it into a little bit of a co-op game.
that's super fun, man.
Yeah,
That's
I think
a really cool concept.
The Kirby series is like kind of known for being easier and like good for beginner gamers to get into. And I think this makes it even easier because you can have someone who's either hesitant or maybe they're just so young that they just don't really quite understand what's happening. You can hand them the second controller and they will have control over Gooey, and they can't really mess things up for you if you're the main player, but they do have some agency and they can move around and like actually do stuff. It's a step above the handing of the unplugged controller to your little brother and letting them think that they're playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
They are actually doing something. Brother. They're just not really doing anything.
The little brother character is what Gooey is. That's a really cool
concept,
though. This is making me like Dreamland 3 more, I'm actually upset now that people don't like it.
Kind of reminds me of Tails in Sonic 2, how you can the second player can control Tails. Even if Tails doesn't really do anything, it still is like something that you can hand the controller to somebody and say, see, you're doing something. And they actually are, even if they can't like mess you up. So there are 9 copy abilities in this game. 2 of them are brand new. There is the broom, and then the heart. The heart thing kind of comes in later. But the broom is just called cleaning and is generally just whacking bad guys with the broom and then the dust that it kicks up. But the best part of the broom is if your animal companion is Choo Choo the octopus, you can fly around on a broomstick like it's Kiki's Delivery Service. And it seems so fun. And you can like hit stuff with the back of your broom and things like that. So it's actually pretty good for boss fights towards the end. Yeah. So I think it's a pretty funny.
I want to play. I want to play this game. I really do. Usually I play both games, and this week I didn't have time to, so I'm gonna pick up. I might is this on Switch?
I think so. Yeah. I was playing it on just on a Super Nintendo emulator. I gotta get those retro achievements, man.
Dude, those retro achievements, you really want to get them. If no one here, okay, hit the tangent button. We're doing it. We're going into it. I don't know if we've done it. Retroachievements.org, I think, is the website. And
I
they
think so,
have
yeah.
so many achievements for retro video games. If you play on like I have a Miyu Mini and so does Tyler, and that's what I primarily play a lot of these games on. And so it's really cool getting that feeling of popping an achievement, and then you can go on their website and look and see all the ones you've unlocked. So this is the tangent. If you were like, I want to play retro games, but I like achievements, it's already been done for you. Okay, you just got to get the right ROM. That's all you got to do. So
Yeah,
this is
and
a public service announcement.
It's for games that run through RetroArch. I think the retro achievement stuff is like built into RetroArch. So if you've got a system that you're emulating that way, you will probably be able to find retro achievements online. I also love that they have a hardcore mode that you can toggle on in RetroArch, which turns off save states and rewinds and like all the things that that like could help you get achievements. To just play the game as if it were on the original hardware. And if you get achievements in hardcore mode, they're sort of like marked differently on retroachievements.org. So you can see who did it like maybe with save states and who did it like hardcore mode, which is pretty cool, I think.
I'm using save states because, as we've mentioned before, I am bad at video games. So I need those save states.
I'm also doing that. And I just generally don't trust when I put a machine down that it's going to come back to where I was. So I will always like do a manual save state just in case like the battery dies or you turn it back on and something is messed up and you had to restart it or something like that. So I will probably not really play in hardcore mode, but I do appreciate that it's there. And there are some games that I would actually like to do that for. I should probably do like a Star Fox 64 playthrough on hardcore mode or something.
Ooh, yeah, that would be fun. But yeah, retro achievements. Check those out, everybody, if you haven't yet.
Yeah. The last copy ability in Dreamland 3 that is brand new is the heart. And it is actually called the Love Stick. And I don't know why you're laughing, Mike. Please explain the joke.
It's just silly to say. There's nothing dirty about this, right?
No,
everything's fine, everybody. Yeah, it's just funny.
The Love Stick is it's only used in the last level on the last boss. It kind of looks like the star rod, but it's like mostly got a heart in it. So you only get this after you've gotten all of the heart stars, and then you're ready to take on like the true final boss. So
you should have prepped me for this beforehand. You should have told me this was in here. You can't. You gave me other things. I'm turning red because I'm holding it back right now, Tyler. You should have told me.
Hey, I don't know why you're laughing.
I don't know why I'm laughing either. It's just the great name of an item in a video game, everybody.
Yep.
Everything's fine. I'm gonna just be off mic for a couple minutes.
Yeah, so you get that after you've gotten all of the heart stars in each and every level, and it helps you beat the final boss. So yeah, one of the coolest. So every level has like a heart star in it, and you have to help somebody do it. And one of the coolest like cameos here is Samus Aran on the second level of the last world. She needs your help destroying all of the Metroids in the level. So if you kill all the Metroids with the ice ability, then you will get the heart star from Samus.
Does that mean Kirby and Metroid are same universe? Is that what we're implying here?
Well,
or is it because it's a dream? It doesn't.
I think that the dream thing gives them license to do whatever they want, and then they don't have to actually back it up with this is canon, this is not canon. They can just be like, I don't know, Samus was in, and then Samus showed up, right? Like you're describing a dream to somebody, and we had to play mini golf, and then Samus was there for some reason, and like that, and that's fine because it's Dreamland, right? Yeah. There's also Rob from the game Gyromite on the NES, the actual physical like robot that would pick things up and put them down. He's also in Star Fox 64, Rob 64. So
yeah,
Star Fox 64.
I mean, Star Fox 64. Have we talked about Star Fox? Have we done Star Fox?
I don't
think we've done. How have we not? That's like your favorite 64 game, probably is Star Fox. Well, Ocarina of Time, but like probably second favorite.
But Star Fox is like right up there. Yeah, it's right up there.
I don't know. Can you play? Oh man, we should just
because we got there's Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, Star Fox 2 on the Super Nintendo, Star Fox 64, Star Fox Assault, Star Fox Adventures, Star Fox Guard, Star Fox Zero, Star Fox Command.
Let's look this up after we're done today. Let's look this up.
We got lots of Star Fox games to play.
We do, but yeah, that's really cool though that they have Samus in Kirby's Dream Land though.
Yeah.
Kind of like how in Link's Awakening, there's Mario bad guys because it's a dream.
And that's also
Spoilers
a
to a very old game.
Yep. Yeah. So with that, then we can get on to sort of the plot of Dreamland 3, which is really standard Kirby stuff. So a dark cloud appears over planet Popstar, which is Kirby's home planet. I love that it's called Planet Popstar. And it's up to Kirby and his animal companions to save the day and beat King DDD, who has been possessed by dark matter. It's almost never actually DDD's fault. He's always the bad guy in this stuff, but it's almost never his actual fault. He's like always being possessed by somebody else. Yeah. So if you get all the heart
he's
stars,
weak-minded, is what you're saying. He easily possessed.
Maybe that's true, or maybe just because he's the king, he's a good target for possession.
He's easily corrupt. Is there a political message to Kirby's Dream Land? I think that's what we're discovering.
Maybe he might be, but I don't think they show a viable alternative to DDD, who is not as easily corrupted. So it would seem to me that maybe he is the only target. He might be an easy target, but there's nobody else who.
What about Kirby?
Want to corrupt.
What about Kirby though?
But he's not the king.
Kirby, he could be the king though. I want Kirby to usurp DDD. Is what I'm saying. This is the Game of Thrones we all wanted.
Yeah. This is the like a rebels. Kirby is the rebel alliance from Star Wars, from Star Fox. Star Wars.
From Star Wars.
So if you get all the heart stars, you go into the hyper zone with your love stick and you fight Zero. And I'm going to tell you something, Mike. Zero is actual nightmare fuel. This game is rated kids to adults because it's before the E for everyone rating, kids to adults. I don't think the ESRB was shown Zero, and I think they still have not been shown Zero, even if the game has been re-rated for like the Switch online store and stuff like that, because this guy is a scary eyeball, and he's not just an eyeball. I'm going to show you a picture in a second, but he's like,
well, did you show us?
So if
you have Samus, don't you? Should we show him Samus?
That's right.
Yeah, let's show. Sorry, we got distracted by I've been distracting you this whole episode. I apologize.
So here's
you're dropping things like Love Stick and Samus and not saying what's going on, and I just don't even know how to keep up with you. Okay.
Yeah. So this is Samus in the second level of the sixth.
No helmet.
The final world. No helmet. Yeah, she takes her helmet off. So when you help her by freezing all the Metroids, she gives you the Heart Star and takes her helmet off, and that's cool. I don't know why they chose Samus specifically, but it's pretty cool. And then I also have this other
Abomination.
I'm going to show you Zero. So if you are squeamish, maybe don't look at the YouTube video here, because this is actually pretty graphic for a Super Nintendo game and for a KA rated Super Nintendo game. Ugh. This is an eyeball that is spewing just blood everywhere. And Kirby's like hitting it with the stick, but dang, dude, this thing is disgusting and gives me just nightmares, right? And it's really dark. Yeah, I gotta think the ESRB was not shown this when it came time to do the rating, because there's no way this game gets K.
They probably just assumed, they're like, oh, it's just going to be that giant penguin king. It's fine. He's totally fine for kids. They had no idea the Dark Souls nature of the bosses in Kirby's Dream Land 3.
Yeah, and you only get here if you get all the heart stars. So maybe they figure there's a built-in mechanism here of like, look, if you're good enough at this game to get here, you're probably old enough to be able to understand this without losing your mind. But it's scary, and I don't like it, and I'm gonna take it off the screen now.
Good, yeah, it's a horror show for sure.
Yeah. So it's a weird eyeball, dude. It's I don't love it. No, once you beat Dark Matter and Zero. Go ahead.
Say things we endorse on this podcast. That is not one of them. That's all I was going to say.
No,
it's not.
We do not endorse bloody eyeballs.
We do not endorse bloody eyeballs.
No,
not
once you beat Dark Matter and Zero, you pieces restored. You won. Great job, Kirby. But we are all still a little bit emotionally scarred from Zero. So we got a little bit on the development here. It was developed by HAL Laboratory. Came out in '97. Is pretty late in the SNES's life cycle. The Nintendo 64 had been out for over a year. The gaming industry was moving more towards 3D graphics and like that sort of level of new technology. So it's like kind of weird that they just decided to make this game. But I think it has to do with what HAL Laboratory was focused on at the time. The team that was working on Dreamland 3 was also working on a few different other projects simultaneously, including the early stages of what would become Super Smash Brothers on Nintendo 64. So, but I think they wanted like an end cap of like the first three games like to be not in like 3D, like to be this. They wanted this like third and final Dreamland game to be like, what is the pinnacle of 2D that we can do here? And so I think they put that. That's why they put it on the Super Nintendo. Not sure if it was a great call or not. I think it kind of got lost in the shuffle, especially because it's generally not loved by the people who played it too. Like the Kirby fans who played this game were like, not as good as Dreamland 2 or Superstars. So it's kind of a bummer that it like came out at the end and then was just sort of a womp womp. But it didn't have any input from Masahiro Sakurai, who was like probably all in on Smash Bros. Development at that point in time. Because that game would come out, I don't know, spring of '98, I want to say, Smash Bros. So it was like almost ready to go by the time Dreamland 3 came out.
We should talk Smash Brothers too. There's so much to cover. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's like we're never going to stop
there's not a whole
doing
lot.
this podcast. We're going to be in this forever.
It's just infinite content.
You're going to be one time, you're going to be cutting to us, and we're going to be together because we're both going to be at a retirement center doing this podcast together. That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll still be talking about games from the 80s and 90s.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So I'll leave you with what I believe is the legacy of this game. I think this is the first Kirby game to take a bold risk with the art style. They went all in on this like crayon aesthetic. Which is kind of something the series will become known for as time goes on. Epic Yarn has that like sort of yarn, like crafty aesthetic to it. Canvas Curse is like kind of paint themed. And then Rainbow Curse is very clay themed. So they're all kind of arts and crafts themed, which I think is really, really cool. They have their own unique aesthetics, these later Kirby games, but they are tied together by this arts and crafts theme. So I just like, I love a good theme, you know?
Me too.
It's consistently inconsistent.
Like Paper Mario.
And I think it works well because like Paper Mario. I think the aesthetic also appeals to kids, which I think these games are great for. So the director of this game, Shinichi Shimomura, he was also the art director. So I think that made them probably more willing to take a big risk on the art style there, because he was making the calls and he was the art director and he wanted to make a big call there. So yeah, it's too bad that it was like the last first party game on the Super Nintendo and it flopped. But I think most people had moved on to the N64 by then. But I want to keep talking about this crayon style because I think it's really cool. I played this game on an OLED screen, like I said, and I guess I'm just gonna get into why like playing it on CRT is better. But you really should just like hook this up to CRT, which I found one. I found a CRT in our alley.
You sent me
like
that
a week ago.
I'm about to try to.
It's really cool.
Okay.
I haven't played anything on it yet because I need to find a place for it.
So you found that CRT and it has the yellow, red, and white component cables, right?
Yeah, it has composite. It also has component.
Composite.
Red, green,
composite. Oh yeah, component is the red, green, and blue. Composite is yellow, green, and white. So that's the dream because I have a CRT, but it's only got the cable jack on the back of it for like the antenna screw-in adapter, which is I can't believe I played that way. It looks so bad on my 64. Like it's unplayable.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about selling the CRT to get money because it has a VHS player built into it, which is probably like actually worth something in that sense. And so I'm going to try to sell this CRT, and get another CRT that has the component, the yellow and yellow, white, and red in the back, because that's what the 64 takes. And I want to play 64 on original hardware. I really do.
Yeah.
I want to find like
try to find a TV with S video if you can, because that's probably the best video out that you could get for the Nintendo 64 without mods is S video.
S video. Okay. Cause I was using a retro, like a RetroTink thing that I got. That's not RetroTink. It's like the off brand and it's playable. It's all right. But it clearly has that non-CRT look that you're like, this isn't what I remember growing up, you know. But sorry, that was the tangent because CRTs are great. Everyone should try to find one.
Yeah, it's funny how many advantages CRTs still have in terms of like motion clarity and like some of the imperfections that make them a little better for these older games that were developed with them in mind, especially for this like crayon aesthetic, because it crayons sort of smudge a little bit into each other, and so having the TV kind of do that naturally makes the game. I don't know if it's your brain filling in the gaps there, because obviously it's not making up detail that isn't there, but it just makes the art style work so much better than seeing like pure pixels on the screen. Like I said, maybe you could get a cool CRT filter for your regular screen and not need an actual CRT, like maybe there's a good way to sort of fake that on a LCD or something like that. But I haven't dove into that. But yeah, the art style is just really cool, and I think sets up the series to try other arts and crafts art styles like this. And I think they've largely been pretty successful with those. And I think that's part of the charm of these games is that art style aesthetic. So
I agree with
the
you because
reception to this
I
game
love
was
that.
like okay. Yeah.
Oh, just yeah, because
It,
you're saying this is
it
not
was
the most
just
popular one.
okay. Yeah, it felt like an okay successor to Dreamland 2 on the Game Boy. But most reviewers were just like, I don't know, you could just go back and play the other ones. They're kind of better. And people had Superstar on the SNES, so you could go back and play the older games, but in like Super Nintendo form, because they were like sort of pseudo remade in Superstar. So it was kind of just like, yeah, Dreamland 3 is fine, but why would you play this when you could just go play Superstar? Or you could be playing Pinball or Dream Course, because those spinoffs are surprisingly deep, as you found.
Surprisingly deep.
Yeah. So I think it's cool. The next Kirby game, Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, is a Nintendo 64 game. I think loses a little bit of the charm of the art style that this game had, I think, but it's still okay. We'll talk about that in the future. It's one of the few Nintendo 64 games that is played with the D-pad on the controller and not with the joystick. So you do hold
Just
it.
so you know, I'm using that game as an excuse to purchase it for my collection. So I will be buying a copy of the Kirby 64 essentially for that. Yeah, because I don't have a copy of it.
Well, if you're going
so
for a complete set, you don't need an excuse.
You got to get it. You know what I mean? You got to get it. So
yeah, you got to get it. So that's what I got on Kirby's Dream Land 3 here. Play it on a CRT if you can, or if you want to mess around with some CRT filters on your handheld or whatever you got. Go nuts. That's cool too. I did get some retro achievements for this game, so you can check my retro achievements profile, see how far I got. Not super far myself, because there's a lot of different passageways and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like you and I are playing these games too. We're not always going to beat the game. You know what I mean? That's not something we can always do. Also, realistically, with timing wise, you know what I mean? But we do play them and try them because we do. That was one critique that I really thought was a very good critique when we started like going off book. That I'm like, we should try to actively play these games that we're talking about, because it seems kind of silly to try to cover them without experiencing them ourselves. So, but yeah, I think so. Next week we're gonna do something for 300, but we're definitely going to go back and do Kirby Superstar, because that seems to be something that we need to do. I jumped ahead to Dreamland 3 because I was just like, well, we've done Dreamland 1 and 2, so let's do Dreamland 3. And then we had the Dream Course suggestions, so we did that. But I do think there are other games that we jumped over. So if you're like, hey, you skipped my favorite Kirby game, don't worry. We're going to go back to them. We'll get there. I promise. We might do one where if the games aren't as deep, maybe you do 3 games in one episode and just kind of boom, boom, boom through them. Again, just Pinball Land and Dream Course, surprising depth to them. So I thought they warranted their own time. Unlike the Lego PC games that were like, hey, this one is just a creative builder. Okay. And that's it. And it didn't work for me. So, but
this one is just chess.
It's just chess. Hey, have you played chess? You played Lego chess. There's a little things to it, but that's about it. So with that though, what you been playing, Tyler?
Well, last night I finished playing Paper Mario. I finished the whole story of the original Paper Mario. So that's me. I beat Super Mario RPG a couple weeks ago, and now beat Paper Mario. And I'm gonna go through the Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi, like all these RPG games. I'm kind of going through them, I think, in release order, not necessarily series order. So I'm not moving on to the next Paper Mario game just yet. I'm gonna play the first Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga game. I am playing the 3DS remake, but it's I wanted to go kind of in release order so I could see how these games kind of build on each other, or if they take any inspiration from each other at all. I don't know. Like the road goes off into 2 with the Paper Mario series and the Mario and Luigi series, and I don't know how much influence they have on each other. They do have a crossover game though, Paper Jam. So I'm excited to play that someday, but that's a ways away. But anyway, I'm moving on to Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Other than that, been playing some Deadlock still. And I when I'm not feeling like thinking too hard in an RPG and playing a Paper Mario game, I've been playing like the first Borderlands game, because I've played it a bunch of times and I'm just like shooting stuff and looting guns and having fun. So
that's what I've been doing on that Minecraft realm.
Yeah,
I've just been like, when I want to kill time, it's a lot of Minecraft realm. I've been building stuff in Minecraft. It's Java edition, so it's kind of cool because it's got like a little variation from the Bedrock that I'm used to. Been playing that. Um, Played Deadlock with you. Played a little bit of League of Legends. Not really trying that much else though. Just it's kind of been a chill week. I mean, I played Kirby's Dream Course obviously too, but I didn't really play a lot of games this week. I have a lot of shows, but I did see something kind of interesting, and I didn't tell this guy I'm doing this, but I did a show yesterday, a comedy show at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, which some argue is the most important time to do a stand-up comedy show, I would think. And the
Yeah, I would agree.
yeah, right. Yeah. So the headliner's name though is Hunter Lloyd, and he's actually a robotics professor at Montana State, your Montana University, one of those Montana colleges, and like legitimately has like contracts with NASA and stuff. So like actual roboticist. But he does a comedy educational show for kids. And I just want to shout him out because I want to try to get him on the podcast, but there's also a bit he does in the middle where he kind of makes fun of video game history a little bit, and he takes Donkey Kong, like classic Donkey Kong, and changes the characters, and then kind of makes jokes about the gameplay and changes the gameplay. And it was very good. Like it was a very entertaining video game bit that was different than traditional stand-up. And I just wanted to shout him out. So if you're in your town and you're ever like, I see like Hunter Lloyd coming into town, just know there's some video game jokes there that I enjoyed, and I just wanted to shout him out. So maybe he'll do the podcast. He seemed to know a lot about video game history. He's a computer science guy, programs his own games in Unity. So it's like he might be a good guest.
Get him on the show.
He'd be a great person to talk to about AI and video games potentially, because he does a lot of like stuff with large language models with his robots and stuff. So it'd be interesting to do. But yeah, so that's kind of a weird shout out. But anyway, let's talk about things you can do to support us. You can go to Spotify. You can go to Apple Podcasts. Give us a good review. That really helps us out a lot. We really appreciate those. You can go to codexpodcast.net. That's our website with all our links, our Discord, our Trello boards. Maybe we'll put our retro achievements pages up there. I don't know. We'll see what we do. Then you can also join our Discord through that link, or you could send us an email at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. Episode 300 next week, Tyler. It's pretty crazy.
Yep. I know.
We've been doing this podcast for 6 years.
We can't even remember if we did Star Fox or not.
Yeah, we don't even know.
Somebody's like, "You've done Star Fox. You've already done it." I'm about to search for it.
It might be a Resident Evil situation all over again. But with that,
yeah. Well, sometimes we we'll talk about a game like if we do like a top 10, and then I'll be like, "Yeah, we've talked about Star Fox, but really we just talked about it for like 5 minutes in a top 10."
Yeah, that happens a lot. I think that's what we did with Spec Ops: The Line, and I thought we did a Spec Ops: The Line episode, but you still haven't played it, so I don't want to do it yet.
I haven't played it, yeah.
At some point, we're going to do it because Tyler will play it. But until then, Tyler, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.